Who's gonna take your place? There ain't nobody better. Oh, baby, baby, we belong together, baby. What gives love? I lost a part of me. It's still so hard to believe. Come back, baby, please. 'Cause we belong together. Who am I gonna lean on when times get rough?
Hide and Seek TV. I'm about to get ready to do a very deep breakdown concerning the whole symbolism of the 1990s television shows. And what I want to do is delve deep because I'm actually going to start off with Full House. I'm going to be covering Full House, the show Half and Half from the early 2000s. I'm going to talk about a little more on Sister Sister, and I'm going to do Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But basically what I want to talk about is a lot of symbolism because you remember back then, it was always the aspect of the house. And if you notice at that time, the female was the main character. You know what I mean? If you remember Sister Sister, you had Tia and Tamara, Full House. You had Michelle and DJ and Stephanie. You know what I mean? Jesse. And then you had on Fresh Prince, you already know it was about Will Smith, obviously. But what I noticed too in Half and Half was about the two sisters. But if you notice the aspect during that time, it was always about being grafted into the house. You know what I mean? Because when you understand a house represents nothing but togetherness of the families of the earth, like the Mother Earth, like the house. You know what I mean? The earth being the arena. You know what I mean? The four corners. But I'm going to delve deep into this because the first thing I noticed, which is so deep, is because the show Full House literally had the father who was a widower. You know what I mean? He basically was a father, a single father, raising three daughters, and he was trying to find a woman to help him raise three daughters. I'm going to actually play some clips in a little bit. But what I noticed too is how his name was Jesse. Now, when you're familiar with the lineage of David in the scriptures, you will know his father's name was Jesse. And then I think his brother name was Joey, but his real name is David. You get what I'm saying? And then I think his other brother, if I'm not mistaken, because I don't really remember the show that well, but I know it was either the friend or the brother. His name was Danny, representing nothing but like the tribe of Dan. You get what I'm saying? Of the 12 tribes of Israel, which is so deep because the daughter's name was DJ, the other daughter name was Stephanie. You know what I mean? One of the three daughters, and which name don't really mean nothing but basically crown. So you already know that means the royalty. And Mary-Kate and Ashley, remember they used to play the same character named Michelle, which is so deep because Michelle don't literally mean nothing but Michael, which is basically meaning who is like God. That's why if you remember on Sister Sister, you had two sisters. They were twins, but they was playing obviously two different characters. Tia, Tamara. Same thing with Half and Half. They wasn't twins, but I mean they were two sisters who came from two different backgrounds. You know what I'm saying? And what's so deep about that is that when you notice Full House, their last name was Tanner. You know what I'm saying? And when you understand the name Tanner, which is so deep because the name Tanner don't literally mean nothing but basically a person who makes leather. You know what I mean? Like a leather cloth. And what's so deep about that is when you understand that it's literally nothing but the letter maker. So what's so deep about that is the high priest used to wear the letter. You know what I'm saying? He used to have leather cloth, like garment. You know what I mean? Which is so deep because the Messiah, as we know, is called the high priest now. And I'm about to delve deep into this because notice how, like I said, his name was Jesse, and out of him roots come out of Jesse comes David. Through David comes the Messiah. Hence why his daughter name was Crown, and why Jesse was a widower, because the whole aspect of all these shows, you always had like the adoption, or you always have, you know, basically everybody coming back together, but it's always about basically the divorce. And I'm going to delve deep into this because when you understand the scriptures, as it's written in Jeremiah 3:8, as it's written, Israel backsliding, Israel committed adultery. Therefore, you know, basically adultery to the Most High is fornication, being like worshiping other gods. Don't put no other gods before me. And then therefore he gave her a bill of divorce, and her treacherous sister Judah feared not and played the harlot also. But I'm actually going to play the theme song right quick from Full House, and I'm going to chime on in because it's very symbolic. Now, if you notice, Notice how they're in a red car. And when you understand the scriptures, the red car literally don't mean nothing but basically like the aspect of like most like basically the vehicle and the vessel to where you're basically like progress and transported because all it represents is the body. So when you look at the red, that literally represents nothing but the Messiah sacrifice, crucifixion. And notice how they're driving across the San Francisco Bridge. You already know the Messiah is just written. He's the bridge to the Most High. You feel what I'm saying? Hint the whole aspect of Full House because notice, like I said, the dad name was Jesse. The daughter's name was Stephanie, Michelle, DJ. Her name ain't mean nothing but basically Donna. You know what I'm saying? Because all that means, what Donna means is lady, and you know her name was DJ, which is Donna Joe. Basically was her name. So Joe is basically talking about the lineage of Joseph. You know what I'm saying? The first king, really like the first Israelite king during the time of Egypt. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna keep it rolling. Notice how they're playing in the park. No worries. You know what I'm saying? Just pay attention to this. Keep it rolling. Notice they got the dog too, because remember I said the dog literally is nothing but the shepherd, the protector. And you already know dog backwards is spelled God. Remember when I was talking about Scooby-Doo and Shaggy, how Shaggy name meant basically like wool, and how Scooby-Doo represented nothing but like the protector and all. You remember how they literally used to just solve the mysteries. You know what I mean? You know, get those who were basically deceiving the people. And the like wool anyway, because the Messiah is like wool. And you see how they're drawing her right here. You know what I mean? Mary-Kate Ashley, because they literally play Michael. That's all they play was the one like guy, aka Michelle. There's a heart and a hand to hold on to. That represents nothing but the love of the Most High. You know what I'm saying? This stuff is deep, y'all. And I'm going to show you something right quick, get right to the meat of it. Notice how they always at the table and they always feasting because that represents nothing but the promised land. You know what I mean? Notice how they always like doing a holy communion, like feasting. You get what I'm saying? I just wanted to touch on that right quick. But as you see it, which is so deep, man, because I'm about to take it up a notch and I'm about to actually delve real deep into this. I want to show the half and half right quick because I'm going to delve real deep into this. So I'm going to keep this thing rolling. But notice I'm going to play the clip and I'm going to chime on in. Through this journey of discovery. Notice how it's basically like the two worlds. How the sister is coming from the pastures, and notice how she's coming from the aspect of like being like in the Gemini. You know what I mean? That this is nothing but the Temple of Solomon, Jacqueline and Boaz representing nothing but the Gemini, sun and moon. Notice how she's coming from the dark like sunset, and she's coming from the sun. Pay attention to that. From the pastures like the kingdom. Finding you, I'm finding me. Finding you, I'm finding me. Now that I have someone special who brings out the joy. Now what's so deep about this, y'all, is that the guy in the front, his name is Spencer Williams. And remember, I've been talking about that because what's so deep about this is literally like I've been talking about this. The name Williams literally don't mean nothing but the will of I am, aka Exodus 3:14. The Most High told Moses, tell Israel that I am has sent you. And notice how they form in a pyramid. Now, you already know the cast. You already know Mona was the main character. Remember her mother. Her mother and her grew up in the ghetto, and remember they was like kind of poor. And then remember the sister, her name was Dee Dee. You remember she was the one who grew up preppy and had everything she wanted, got the pony and the horses and all of that, got to enjoy life and, basically getting all the luxuries and everything from her dad. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. And the mother, they all stayed together, but the father had divorced Mona's mama. You know what I'm saying? And that's when he formed a new family. But I'm going to delve deep into that in a minute. But notice how Williams is in the front and they form in the pyramid. You know what I'm saying? That's basically representing nothing but like this whole show was basically like showing, like they was already showing the agenda of basically the rebellion aspect. I'm gonna get deep on it in a minute, but notice how he's the lead for the time. That represents nothing but the Most High leading the situation. But notice why. Pay attention to the lyrics of the song. Yeah, we can become whatever we want. All we need is love. That's the way I feel it should be. Notice how Mona is the one over singing everyone, and now Williams is in the back, because that basically represent them basically saying we should be able to build the world the way we want, and the Messiah, the Most High, should not even be involved. He should be in the background while we just build it. You know what I'm saying? That's all they're basically saying. That's why Mona, who's the main character, name don't mean nothing but basically desires and wants. And what's so deep about this whole show too, that I really paid attention to, is the guy on the Asian guy, his name was basically Adam, which is so crazy because they had him on the show. I'm gonna play the clip in a minute. They had him on the show as a homosexual. And when you notice this too, which is so deep, because they basically saying that they want to deteriorate the God man. That's why he had to be Asian, because remember Adam was in the remember he had to rule over the east of the Garden of Eden. And when you understand the Asian empire, the Asians in general, they come from the eastern hemisphere of the world. Pay attention to that. You know what I'm saying? Pay attention to that. I'm not going to really play it too long because it'll get flagged. But I want to literally delve into that. And I'm about to go into this one too, because what's so crazy is on Half and Half, what I noticed, if you're familiar with the rapper from back in the day named MC Lyte, she was the boss of Mona. When Mona, basically what happened, which is so crazy, is because on the show, like I said, how Spencer Williams was basically, like, remember how I said basically Williams don't mean nothing but the will of the Most High. So what happened is basically Mona, she had got promoted over Williams, and the whole theme of the show was that she was an A&R of a music company named Delicious. And when you understand the aspect of Delicious, how I said her name literally don't mean nothing but desires and wants. Delicious represents nothing but like the gluttony and basically being able to eat the fats of the earth. On a psychological deep level, man. Because when you understand this about her, which is so crazy, is how she literally was over the record company named Delicious as an A&R. She was a top level, the one running the show under MC Lyte, whose name literally on the show name was nothing but Kai. And all Kai mean anyway is just basically keeper of the keys. You already know what I'm saying? And that represents nothing but the Messiah, like basically the one, or no, actually, how basically Kai, what she represented was like the sense of their Messiah, because when you rank up in their world, you basically become the gatekeeper of the cities you're in. That's why there's all the rappers be like, I got the keys, like DJ Khaled, Future, Jay-Z, etc. She represents nothing but the gatekeeper. You know what I'm saying? And that's why you see her and Mona were the ones ruling, and Spencer was under them, and he was like the lower level, always basically trying to chase a woman and all of these things. And Adam was gay, and how he was basically destroyed because they basically like killed the God man. You know what I'm saying? And I'm about to get into the whole aspect too of the cast of the show, because what's so crazy, how the father's name was literally Charles. His name was Charles Thorne. Pay attention to the name Thorne. You know what I mean? And remember, the Most High already said that, basically how Adam would have to till the ground, and it'll be as thorns, and it'll be like thistles because of the judgments and the curses. And when you understand that, he was, remember I said he basically divorced her mother, he divorced Mona's mother, whose name was Phyllis, which basically don't mean anything but in the Greek mythology, who was like someone who basically had died because she was chasing after love, you know what I mean? But she resurrected as an almond tree. It basically represents the aspect of like going through the whole spiritual death. That's why Charles had divorced her, and married Mona's sister's mom, Dee Dee's mother. You know what I mean? And his name is Charles, which is basically short for nothing but Chuck. Chuck is short for Charles. And all Chuck, if you remember the show Supernatural, remember they said Chuck is God because Chuck represents the free man, the one who is free from the bondage of the world, who is not a slave of this world, who is not a slave of sin. That's all it's saying. And I'm like, this stuff is deep, man. It's like right in our face, all of these shows. But I'm about to take it even deeper because what I noticed, which is crazy, is real crazy. If you remember the show Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, you remember Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? You had Will Smith and you had Carlton. And I'm gonna get into this in a minute. But basically Carlton comes from the name Kara, which is nothing but basically Christ. You get what I'm saying? Because a Kara, and all it means is like the Ka basically represents nothing but the sacred bull, and El represents the rod of royalty. You get what I'm saying? That's why him and Fresh Prince were cousins. Him and Will Smith was cousins. And what is so crazy, if you remember the episode when Will Smith was crying because his dad, remember he met his dad and his dad abandoned him? His father's name was Lou. And I'm about to take that. Remember, I've been talking about the Lewis stone, which is basically the stone that the Freemasons reject to use because they rather build the Illuminati pyramid and where they become exalted high and they don't have to deal with the Most High. Remember, I just showed you that on the Half and Half theme song where he's in the background while they already built their world. This is the way we think it should be for you and me. You know what I'm saying? And when you understand that, which is so deep, because Lu literally comes from Lewis, which is nothing but the stone they reject, as it's written in Psalms 118:22. The stones the builders rejected has become the cornerstone foundation of the world, meaning nothing but the Most High. And when you understand that anyway, this is why Mary-Kate Ashley, notice the keys. They look at the names, man. Now she's basically dating, what is it, the guy named Lewis? Come on, man. It's all in our face. How many times have we seen this? And I'm gonna show some more detail on it in a minute. But when you notice this too about Fresh Prince, which is so crazy because you remember Fresh Prince took place in Philadelphia, out in Philly. And remember the whole aspect of him was basically him getting sent away from home because he was going against the law, getting in trouble. So he got sent to go live with his Uncle Phil, which don't mean nothing but the lover of horses, basically the horse rider. You know what I'm saying? The horse rider don't mean nothing but like the one who is noble and respected. That's why his uncle name was Uncle Phil. You know what I mean? And that's why he was called Master William. Remember I said the will of I am. Fresh Prince, Messiah role, Carlton, nothing but the Messiah role. That's why they were cousins. It's so deep how this stuff goes, man. It's that deep, you know what I'm saying? And what I noticed too is because they was in Philadelphia, you already know the Church of Philadelphia, as it's written, these things saith he that is holy, he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that openeth and no man shutteth, and shutteth and no man openeth. Coming from the Church of Philadelphia, aka the Most High. Like, come on, it's right in our face. It's been in our face all these years that they've been building the Babel Tower right in our face. And for those who ain't familiar with the Babel Tower, all that is nothing but basically New World Order, reaching high heights to be exalted higher than the Most High. Walt Disney has the logo of the tower reaching heaven, cracking the dome. You don't see the Earth atmosphere being cracked. They basically cracking the dome to say that they rose above the Most High. That's why the top of it is a pyramid. You see what I'm saying? So it's all in our face, all this stuff they've been doing. And I'm actually going to take it a little deeper. I'm going to play a little quick clip of Tia and Tamara, them talking, and I'm going to chime on in.
So do you all watch your shows and each other's shows?
Yes.
You do?
My brother played on Full House.
For a while, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
My sister, that's her favorite show. Full House, yeah.
And so what do you think of TV and what it represents for teenagers?
Well, I think there are a few good children's shows on TV, like TGIF, Full House. I think they're...
You see how the Full House aspect, notice that, like I said, Notice how Tia and Tamara, I'm going to play the clip in a minute, a theme song, but notice how Tia and Tamara were the ones they were twins, but they both play a duality role, good and evil. Half and half played the good and evil aspect. But notice the Full House represented Mary Kate and Ashley. They were twins, but they played the same character, Michael, aka who is like God. And notice how Tia and Tamara, their father's name was Ray Campbell, and the mother's name was Lisa. I got a whole 3 trilogy breakdown on them. Go check it out. Tia and Tamara Exposed. 1, 2, and 3 is very deep. I show how they literally played the role of the Obamas right before our eyes for keeping this thing rolling. When you understand that Lisa's name mean nothing but the oath of God, and then Ray comes from the name Ra, like Amen Ra, the Pharaoh. You know what I'm saying? And I have clips where I showed where he was always like talking about, yo, William, Bill, Bill ain't nobody. Bill is not this, not that. And all Bill comes from is the name William, which means will of I am. You get what I'm saying? It's right in our faces. And what I noticed too, which is so deep, is because, their little brother, how the show started off with Sister Sister, is that the director, producer of Full House had saw them because they had their little brother Taj Mori on there. And what they did was they said, okay, look, what we're going to do is we're going to create the show and get their show started where we can do them as an aspect of twins who are adopted and they don't know who their parents are. So pay attention to that. Like they had to go through that whole aspect of not knowing who their parents are. One came from just like half and half. One comes from a family that's poor. Only thing the aspect was Tia came with the oath of God, whose name was Lisa, which is her adoptive mother. You know what I'm saying? But when you look at it, from Tamara grew up in the house with the father Ra. So it's just like pay attention to that. That's the incest aspect of building a one world tower. Notice the whole duality sense with this and how this show and half, how they do that mixture of them coming together in one household, good and evil dwelling together. I'm gonna show the clip in a minute, but I just want to really talk about that because on the Full House show, their little brother Taj Mori, you know what I mean? For those who don't know him, everybody remembers Smart Guy, but basically Taj Mori, if you remember, his name was Teddy on there. And all Teddy means is God's gift and wealthy guard. That's why every movie that Tia and Tamara, when they had him on their show, he was like he always played a role of like the genius and like the wizard. And he's always like their guider. You know what I mean? He's always the one who has the intellect and the wisdom. Not necessarily wizard. I'm sorry, I take that back. But like the one who has the wisdom. That's what I meant. He has the wisdom, he guides them, and he shows them the way. Remember on one of the episodes, I think it's season 5 with Tia and Tamara, when they was trying to get ready to go to college, they had to do the SAT test, and he helped them pass the test so they can level up. You get what I'm saying? So it's like all in our face. That's why his show Smart Guy blew up on Disney. Because remember I just talked about the Disney Tower. It's literally talking about cracking a dome. That's why they had the Smart Guy show on Disney. You get what I'm saying? Like it's all in our face. It's just all about can you see? You know what I mean? Like it's all in our face. And then pay attention to this, how Fresh Prince of Bel-Air had 6 seasons. Hint the 6. Sister Sister had 6 seasons. Hint the 6. Half and Half had 4 seasons. So that right there, 6 plus 6 is 12 plus 4 is 6 plus 6 is 12 plus 4 is 16. Sorry about that. But Full House had 8 seasons. You add that all together, that's 24. 2 plus 4 is 6. So you see how all of this stuff literally merged in together perfectly. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to take it even deeper because notice on Full House, before I get back to Tia and Tamara, notice how on Full House, how they was the only one to reboot. And they call it the Fuller House. And remember the whole aspect of this one was where now the 3 daughters, Stephanie, DJ, and I think it was the other sister, they all 3 of them had grew up and they were now the widows. That all represents being divorced by the Most High. Because if you understand the aspect of a widow, that represents you losing like that, you becoming spiritually dead. That's all it's meaning. You don't have the love of the Most High in you. You're spiritually dead. Remember, I just read that about the whole bill of divorce in Jeremiah 3:8 about Israel and just in general the Most High cutting you off for adultery. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's deep like that, y'all. That's why they always had the great feast. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's right in our face. And that came out from, that's lasted 4 seasons, I believe. No, 5 seasons. So, yeah, that right there is 5 seasons. You know what I mean? I want to get deeper on this right quick because I want to do the whole sister thing. Pay attention to what they say. Notice how she said, I got my own mind.
I do my own style in my own time.
I do my own style in my own time.
And now everybody sees how different we have come to be.
How different we have come to be. And notice how Tia wears the red. And you know the red literally represents nothing but the aspect of the like the sacrificial aspect of the lamb. Like you can look at the red as sin. You get what I'm saying? Because that's the whole point of the Messiah being crucified was due to sin. And then when you look at the purple that represents, which is Tamara, notice she was the one that was wealthy. You know, I mean, not necessarily wealthy, but had, you know, had money and everything at the time. At the time, she grew up more privileged. You know what I mean? That's why she was in the purple, because that represents the high royalty, high level of spirit. You know what I mean? And then that's why she was in the red, because that represented her. Remember, she was growing up poor. And notice how this show took place in Detroit, which was nothing but as the Great Lakes. Hint the whole aspect of the living water in the baptismal. You know what I mean? The flood, etc. Purification. You get what I'm saying? It's right in our face. And like half and half, like I said, that took place in San Francisco across the bridge. They was basically saying that they was basically like condemning the Holy Land in that sense. Not saying that's the Holy Land, but I'm just saying like that was what the whole aspect of the show was about. Hint why William and Adam was at a lower level in the show. And Charles. And that's why Charles, their father on Half and Half, had owned the whole apartment complex where all of them moved in together so that they can learn how to like dwell among each other. Hint, you know, with the 2 wives, and then well, no, the wife would come over sometimes with her daughter and all of that. But notice how all of them always dwell together on the show, on Half and Half. You know what I mean? Hint why all of them are literally on the literally on like the theme. Notice how all of them are all together, dwelling together, singing together in harmony. You know what I mean? The father's name is Charles, aka Chuck, which don't mean nothing like on Supernatural meant Chuck is God, creator. Come on. And Chuck is literally short for Charles. You get what I'm saying? I just really wanted to touch on this because this stuff right here has always been in our face. It's just all about if you can see or not. You know what I'm saying? But I'm actually going to end that right here. Thank you for watching Hide and Seek TV. Much more is coming. Peace.